So we sent our son off to college, and he came home with schizophrenia.
Now our family's searching for the cure.
But in the meantime, this is how we're functioning.
I want to talk about what can happen. Father, mother, creator.
Welcome back, everyone, to We Are Functioning. How are you doing today, honey babe?
Doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We're excited that you guys are back. As a reminder, We Are Functioning is brought to you by GTS, the End User Experts, and One Gun Entertainment. What are we talking about today, honey babe?
Well, this is actually part 2 of our Advocacy series. So, remind them what did we talk about last time?
Yeah. So we kind of kept it at a high level, right? Like, I hate to say it, but maybe some of the basics about what it means to be an advocate, right? We talked about don't beat them down.
Yep.
Build them up, right? We talked about, don't say stupid stuff to your friends, right? Like, like smack it out of your kids, or what was the other one?
Yeah.
Are they off their meds?
Are they off their meds? So, we talked about having friends that actually support you instead of saying, literally, last episode, I mentioned a friend that I told, I said, hey, our son has schizophrenia. He's like, man, I would just knock that stuff right out of him,
Right.
So, no, people, it's not that easy, and it's never going to be that easy.
Right. And we also learned that Honey Babe told us there's an AI tool that can help give us some guidance on really what do you do in case people don't know, right? Was it any good?
Well, I said that when Wendy talked about her advocates go 3 levels deep. In other words, she has people she can talk to. I said that I've never been the kind of person with a lot of friends, an extensive friendship category or catalog, I should say. And the ones I do have, we really are more, surface level conversations. We talk about sports life. We do ask each other, how they're doing and how their family's doing, but we don't really get into the, Wendy can really get into the details of your life and wants to know you, right. Not just the latest sports scores or who won the game yesterday. So she's that person. And because of that, that's who you are. I think you're friends. You've kind of gathered kind of a friendship with people that are similar. They want to talk about, real things. And I think that's the reason you have that opportunity to go to them and say things that you're not going to get a stupid answer, right, when they come back.
Yeah. Well, I still have stupid friends. It's true. We all do. So that nobody gets out of that one. But yes, some of our friends. So basically we talked about, what does it mean to be an advocate kind of on a one layer back, if you will, right? But on the surface, I guess, or around the surface of this schizophrenia. But I think now we should probably take that deeper dive, oftentimes, and we've all seen people out here in the street struggling, right? We've seen the person at the grocery store talking to themselves. We've seen people having a hard time out there. And I'm sure often people wonder, where's their family? And I'm here to say, yeah, I'm their family. And it is important to understand what are the families trying to do to help, right? And really, what does it look like to be a family trying to help? Because it is not as easy as you might think, right?
Yeah, not everyone has family. That's literally why a lot of people are on the streets, because they don't either have family or they have family, but there's no way, speaking from their point of view, there's no way this person is living with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to find some other living arrangements. I love you, but you got to go.
Right. Well, and because, frankly, if you've ever lived with somebody who's not balanced, it is really difficult. I mean, it is not easy to live with somebody who's not balanced. It will, we're all connected more than people know, and it will throw you off the balance. As my uncle will tell you, we're all only 2 steps from the banana peel. So,
from slipping on that
banana peel. So, you got to keep a proper distance, right? So, so I kind of thought, let's talk them through, what does that look like? What do you think? So this last bout, I told you guys in full disclosure, we've been going through it. How long you think?
Right around 20 years. We're right
but
there.
this last bout, how long have we been kind of going through that?
The last bout, it's like a new scenario has arisen in the last 3 to 4 months, I'd say.
Yeah. So I'd say that, and it got kind of in this acute state, probably the last 30 days. But here's how it works, right? And this is what people don't understand. It starts kind of slow, where you're like, hey, you kind of don't seem yourself, son. Is everything going okay? But anybody who knows this illness knows that there's days like that. People have days where you don't seem like yourself, and you can kind of come in and out of you're kind of closer to the symptoms maybe than not. So you're kind of getting used to that. So you kind of are starting to weigh it out. Like, is this a bad day, or are we going down, the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah. And, our latest scenario, we're talking about the last 3 or 4 months. So there was actually a switch in our son's medication. So my lovely wife gets the idea of, let's have him come spend the night so we can really monitor what's going on. And, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Like, yeah, that's okay. I have to admit, a lot of times, when he's around, it's not, defensive, but I'm just a little more on edge. I'm a little more aware. And it's hard to miss because on a regular, if he's around, just coming over to visit or anything, if he's not moving all the time, then he's not moving at all, right? And what I mean by that is, if he's not, getting something to eat, if he's not going outside to smoke, then it's just this lethargic state of he's sitting down, his head on the table. If he sat down on a couch, it would be more of a laying down position. Sitting up seems to be just, I don't want to say uncomfortable, just he's always looking for that comfort position, right? So do you want to get into, and we could probably talk about this for a little while, just the couple of overnight stays?
Well, yeah, before we go there, and we're definitely going to have to go there, what it's like to spend the night in a house with somebody that's not stable, what it's like to be, as I called it, now we're psych nurse, right? And we both took some psych nurse shifts, and it was not fun.
But this would be, we were on a 72-hour watch, would you say?
Yes. Okay. And, but really before that, kind of what strikes that? So it starts with, hey, you're not doing well. You can hear it, right? Then the community, then the family starts calling like, hey, I got some weird calls, in the middle of the night. Is everything okay over there? Is everybody watching, right? Which I'm grateful that we have that kind of community. But then we get calls from the greater community. Neighbors are starting to call, hey, is everything okay over there? And then you start getting really worried, because you don't want his whole life to fall apart. So, as you're getting this communication, you already know it, that something's not right? We knew it. We're like, hey, things aren't going well. Then you start getting the phone calls and the community, and then we decide we got to get closer here, So then we say, let's kind of come together and do camp. Camp crazy.
Do camp 72-hour watch.
Camp 72-hour watch.
And you didn't even mention. So again, and we are very fortunate. I know a lot of you out there are not as fortunate as we are, but our son has his own place because initially, no one would rent to him. We can go back in time, but we won't talk about that just yet. Why people won't rent to him, but so. Speaking to that, he has his own place, and where he is, they were a little lackadaisical on having security. So they finally decided to upgrade the situation. They put cameras in, and what did they find on the cameras?
Yes,
tell them, Wendy.
That was the first.
What did they find?
First community outreach, or voice from the community, which is, hey, the cameras stopped working in the community, and we have cameras, so now we have footage, and we know that, our son was doing something with the cameras. He doesn't want people looking at him, right? He doesn't want, which I don't want people looking at me either. I don't like cameras, but
we wouldn't go into an apartment hallway and turn the cameras.
And turn the cameras,
and visibly
right?
be on the camera as we're turning it.
Yes. So, and so, then the community starts to talk. And again, that's where I noticed, back to being an advocate, that I just started getting, really afraid for him. Right now, the community's aware of him. Now I'm wondering, is he going to, you start worrying, are you going to get put out of your apartment? Are people afraid of you in the community? And what does that do? Is that going to create police action? So that was kind of what prompted us to go, let's get close and let's bring him, in, and we'll, try to make sure that the meds are.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that. I mean, we're not talking about one incident. No. They see on the camera this kid's outside. He's an adult. We call him kid, but he's an adult, and he's outside shadow boxing and throwing punches in the air, and they started getting concerns.
And people are afraid these days. They're punchy, they're worried. So any atypical behavior, people are watching and like, hey, what's going on? So speaking of atypical behavior, so then I go to the grocery store with our son, and we're just gonna, this is a grocery store. You guys know how grocery stores work. They're just grocery stores.
You reminded me of stories I almost forgot about.
And, you're like, we're going through the grocery store, and, I guess it's a upscale area, right, at the grocery store. And I don't know what prompted our son to jump as high as he possibly could in the produce section, but I'm like, hey, maybe you should go sit in the car and let me get the apples. I don't know what was triggering him. And he didn't want to go to the car. So now we're going through the grocery store, and he's fist bumping, and, and like, this is not what grocery store experiences are for a lot of people, right?
And you reminded me, when we went to Tanzania, and we were in Africa, and we did the whole Serengeti thing, and we ended up stopping at a Maasai tribe's, where they live, their encampment, right? And one of the things they like to do, because they're not running around with, full court basketball areas or, soccer fields. It's like, this is where they live. This is their life. And one of the things they like to do is, I don't know if it's a challenge or exercise, but they just want to jump straight up and down. That's what it reminded me of when she said he started doing that in the grocery store. And my whole thing is, maybe they're basing it on, like physicality or something, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they were challenging me to jump when I had a bum knee at the time. So I felt a little humbled, as these guys are like, if they were on the basketball court, their heads probably would have been above the rim. So that's how high they were jumping. But not to get off topic. So back to him jumping up and down in the store.
And how tall do you think our son is? Like
he's about 6 feet.
6 feet. So this is not a child.
6 feet, jumping. 200, 60 pounds?
Yeah. This is a big guy that's jumping up and down as high as he can in the produce section. So needless to say, by the time we check out, we've got all eyes on us in the grocery store as we're walking out. And he's waving to everyone as we're leaving. And
I didn't know that.
Yes. And I'm just, again, I'm grateful for the community that, people are aware, but they didn't get so triggered that there was police action. But guys, I say that because advocacy. If he were in there by himself, I think most certainly police would have been called. And I'm not certain that police weren't called, right? We could have just been gone before they got there. But for me, they see me, and they see me trying to handle the situation, and I think people can really appreciate and and respect that. So there was no challenge that day. But these are all, and now I'm not, it's not like this is all just normal to me. I'm like, hey, I need help, right? Like, what is going on? How come I can't, you weren't even there. So what happened? Why weren't you there? Now that I think about it, I don't think you were in town
I don't know,
yet.
but and that's the thing we've discovered as well is that he's different when I'm around,
Yes,
and
yes.
he's really he can really go, I'll say, a little wild when he's just
Yeah,
with you, right?
yeah.
So this is all, and going back to what we started to talk about, which is what led us to I called it a 72-hour watch, where we invited him over to our place. He stayed, spent the night for 3 days, several days, even more.
Yeah.
And part of it was this activity, this strange activity that was going on, but also he was given new medication. So we wanted to not only see how it's affecting him, because of course none of it's good, right?
Right.
We've talked about in earlier episodes about how the medication he takes feels like we had a doctor friend describe it as taking a tranquilizer. He's lethargic. He just doesn't have a lot of energy. So coming back to the beginning of this discussion, we decided to bring him over and have a 72-hour powwow, him spending the night. And now coming back to that scenario, we noticed some things within those days that I personally had never seen, right? How did you look at it? Because we talked a lot about he should be in the hospital, and
Yes.
and what's strange is, just to give you a little history, it seems like every year his birthday is in February.
Yeah,
March, I'm
March.
sorry. Every year on his birthday, he would for a while, he was going to the hospital.
Yeah.
Every
He
year.
spent probably 5 years in a
Consecutive.
row
Yeah.
on his birthday in the hospital. So yeah, we're starting to see the seasonality and what goes on. And I tell him, because this happened this year, March 5th, this huge winter storm, right? And on his birthday. So it's like, what is going on around your birthday that just, kind of whoops you up in whatever state that you were in. But yeah.
Yeah. So during these overnight stays, one of the ways, now you guys tell us, because again, we want your information, we want your comments.
Yeah.
You can anonymously write to us, comment to us on what you're dealing with your family situation. But one of the key triggers that he's not on his meds is he's up all night.
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing I notice is I'm watching you fight with him to take the meds, and I talked about this in the last episode. So
Not fist fight.
not fist fight, but just arguing, and Wendy doesn't back down, so she doesn't let him bully her or anything like that. He can get angry, but the overall goal is his mental health, right? So as you're talking to him about, hey, so take your meds, it's time to take your meds and go to bed, he grumbles and mumbles a little bit, and then he goes, gets a glass of water. You talk to him about taking his meds, he's got to go outside and have a cigarette. So that's the first thing I saw, was this avoidance,
Right, like a little
this
kid.
combativeness
Like a little kid that when it's time to
not
go
take
to
his
bed.
meds,
Right.
yeah.
And you have to understand, our son is 40 years old now, so this is not a child.
Yeah. So, so the first night we noticed that he didn't take his meds. Why? Because I'm a late night. I'm a night owl. I'll record at night. I watch movies at night when everything kind of calms down. So I'm just, being a musician, I'm naturally a night owl. So as I'm laying in bed, I'm watching TV. I can hear the refrigerator opening. I can hear, and really, he's not a light handler. Now, when I say that, he's not light in handling a door. He's not light in opening the refrigerator door. He's not light in putting a glass in the sink. Everything's a bang and a clang, and it's noise making. So I'm listening to this 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's how we knew, right? We knew, he didn't take his meds. So that was, and why he didn't take the meds, and I was just talking about you fighting with him, is because he argued with you until you were tired, and you said, "Hey, I'm going to bed."
That's
He
true.
wore you out.
Because the truth is, I have to go to work in the morning. I don't have time for late night, and I'm not a night person.
And he
So at
doesn't
10
work.
o'clock, I'm
He can't
shutting
work.
down.
So
Right.
yes, people should know that he
Yeah.
doesn't work. He can't work. He can't hold down a job. So yeah, he was literally driving you
Yeah.
crazy, and just put you to sleep.
Yeah.
Literally.
So you were the first. So you and this is, if anybody knows anything about Ayurvedic, I always say Marvin is, he's very grounding. So that is why, our son is very different when you're around. I think you settle him. Your energy is very grounding. Anybody that's around you knows that your energy is very grounding. And so, but our son's energy is not grounding when he's not well. So I always say, like, he's over here just pulling your honey babe's roots out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. he's very rearranging, right?
I used to have dreadlocks. Now you see my hair is short. If you can see this episode, my hair is now gone. So
is that?
I finally cut it off after 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it because of the episode?
No, I'm just making that up. It was just good for the episode, right?
Sure,
good for the story, but no, it was interesting that first night because I'm trying to think of when I had to have the conversation with him. It might have been that first night, and I came out the room and he wanted to talk to me. He's like, I'm like, man, I just came to check on you at 2:30, almost 3:00 in the morning, and now he wants to have a conversation. And he's like, one of his things was he was concerned about our welfare, right? Me and you. I mean, how's she doing in there? He's pointing to the bedroom. How's she doing? I'm like, well, right now she's sleeping in kind of a cuddle position on her right side. I'm not sure what do you mean. She's sleeping. She's got to go to work. I have to go to work. Why are you out here making all this noise, banging and clanging in and out the door? You know what I mean? In and out the refrigerator. I think the meds make him insatiably hungry all the time. And that's the thing about him. When he finally breaks down and he starts talking about what's really going on, that's when I pay attention and I have a little more, how do you say it? My feelings start to understand what he must be going through because, in several episodes and just in life, when I'm talking to friends, family, I always talk about, if you and again, this podcast is about our son having schizophrenia. So we know that schizophrenia, people can hear voices. Sometimes they can respond to them. Sometimes they react. Sometimes they ignore them. I've always said that I think everybody has the voice, right? I look at it as we have, our head that's supposed to make the decisions in the middle. It feels like we've got something on the left of us saying, hey, do this. On the right saying, hey, don't do that. But imagine that amplified 1,000 times for someone with schizophrenia. These are real voices that they literally respond to. And so that first night, the first 24 hours, isn't there a TV series? But anyway, that night, he said, the voices are telling me not to take these meds, he said, you guys are trying to put me to sleep. I'm like, well, the meds help you sleep. I mean, I don't know. Is this what you prefer to do right now at 3 a.m, or would you rather be resting peacefully right now? So that's when he said the meds, he said, man, they just make me so tired. And I feel like they're trying to do something to me. And I said, who? And he would just say people, right? But at one point in time in that conversation, the reason I'm bringing it up is because he literally admitted that he saw people moving and saying things on the wall. And that's when I said, I try not to be too startled because I want to hear more information, right? I don't want to throw him off or make him say, oh, just forget it. But he had, which we can continue to get into, but he had, we had a really good, deep conversation that night. And he started talking about people, out to get him, and people are after him and they're watching him. And he would say the voices, he finally, it's rare when he did, so I shouldn't say finally. It was years ago he talked about voices. So he finally talked about it again. And I just said to him, so what do you say? How do you deal with it? He said, I just ignore them, because I initially said, if those voices are telling you to do something bad, They just say, no, you're not going to do that. So what do you do? And he said, I just don't respond. You know? So I thought that was pretty powerful of him to, first of all, bring it up, because I know he usually tells you a lot of that stuff. But when he told me, I'm like, okay, this is where advocacy kicks in, advocacy. That is, don't get startled. Don't, have this crazy reaction. My thing was, which I've learned in my studies, is to make him talk about it. It's not about me. I'm like, well, what do you do when you hear that? How are you going to handle it? When do you see these people after you? Do you say anything to them? Are they physical? Are they in your head? And he literally just told me all of the above.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful story you're
we
telling
had
me right now.
We had an amazing conversation that night, and I tell you, I've got a lot more to talk about, but I don't want to be taking over the conversation. But that's when he kind of opened up to me that night.
I love what you're saying from two angles. One, that it sounds like and I don't know what came first, but him sharing his actual experiences with you created compassion, sounds like. And then I wonder almost if you having compassion, he was able to share his experience, which is alarming as shit. When you realize what these people are dealing with, it's really sad. You know what I mean? You're like, why do you have to do this? And when you were telling the story, I just, head in hands just came to me, because I saw that literally with our son. I see him holding and so literally that was the theme song. And I'm not just saying this, but it was literally the theme song that held me together. It was like, what, just, yeah. What did you do to this man? Why is he going through that? So
yeah, we always ask ourselves, why this happened to my son, daughter, father, brother, mother, whatever it is. Right. And there's no answer for it. Yeah. So one thing we know is that, as you've mentioned before, it's in the code, right? So say more about that. Yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering how that plays into, you having that compassionate conversation.
Well, I know that, although we know it's in the code, like you've always said, your father was right next door to it, but he was never physically diagnosed, and he held a job forever till he retired. Right. But what I wanted to really say about that is, it's not from bad parenting or something a parent didn't do right or wrong. Right. If it's in the code, it's in the code. It can.
And you're like, why did it turn up in this man? And why does it live in the code? And it's, and we're going to have a whole couple of episodes about people that live. When you're describing it, I feel like those are the people that live and that can see beyond the veil. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But we're going to have some series about this veil that
Look up the veil.
Yes. What is this veil? People
you
will
guys
know.
Should look that up. Oh, yeah.
I'm just learning about this veil. But, basically he's describing when you're seeing things that we're not seeing, he's hearing things that we're not hearing. And and he's sitting there with head in hand trying to figure out what to do about it. And for us, what I said to him back to the pill is, I said, you're an adult now. So, back to this kind of battle of, and these are the conversations I'm having, which is, do you want to take the pills? And you're an adult now, and you do have choice here. And you're sitting here at 2:30 in the morning, seeing things and experiencing things, and are clearly in your own battle, and I feel like there's an escape hatch, dude. Here, take the pill, get out of it. It's just, for me, it just makes so much sense. Take the pill, and and for him, he's saying it's not that easy. It's not that simple. That it kind of seems simple, but maybe not. But there's a consequence to that pill, and that's the physical one that I think his body starts to push back on, like you said, the eating and the lethargic. So, as he's battling this idea of, should I take the meds, shouldn't I? I'm reminding him that you have a choice, and I told him, we'll love you forever, but the truth is, without these meds, you could be gone, And I said, remember, we met a guy in Chicago that he talked to on the street and shared a cigarette with, and he came back to the hotel and he was like, Mom, that guy is gone, And I'm like, he wasn't even in this world. And I said, that's our fear, is that we don't want you to be gone, you know what I mean? Yeah. But we understand that taking these meds is a choice. And, I said, but if you go and you want to go live in a tent someplace, I'll love you and we'll bring you food and we'll bring you, you know what I mean? But, these are choices and they're not the best choices, from him, from his standpoint at least. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're still talking about, we had our son come over. New meds were introduced, so we had him come over and we figured a couple days, 72 hours, have him spend the night, monitor him, and see what happens. We're still talking about the first night.
Yeah.
Right. And what you're speaking to is, as far as he's lived on the street before.
Yeah.
As far as going to live on the street, that's going to happen when you're ejected from your living environment. You get kicked out of your apartment. You don't have any friends anymore. But we talk about this, and for someone in his condition with his mental health, he has a great life. He has an apartment, he has a car, he has a phone, you know what I mean? Just some of those things that we consider just expected. These aren't, how many people do you see living on the street with a cell phone?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of it. And you would know, because what do? All we do is sit in our phone these days. So You would know. They'd be walking around. No, they're not holding up signs asking for money or food and on a cell phone at the same time.
Right. Well,
so, well, I've never seen that. But, back to our situation. So this was the first 24 hours of him coming to stay with us as we're monitoring him and some new meds. So, And when he talked to me about it, that night he was talking to me and kind of pouring his heart out, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, we're not so different. We can all hear voices that are trying to persuade us to do something. And in the end, you have to make a decision, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone struggles with thoughts and what do I do next? You don't have a GPS. You get to a fork in the road. Did you go left or right? You know what I mean? That's a decision you have to make. Yeah. So I think that first night, because this is where we can split it up. We can still talk about the first night, because the second night, is when I had to, we gave him that choice. We said, well, you didn't do it last night. You kind of, bumped and made noise around the house till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I was getting up periodically.
We all have to get up to work in the morning.
We had to get up and work in the morning, and the next day we gave him some consequences, right? We can't tell you what to do, but if you're going to stay here, this is what needs to happen.
Yeah, and we wanted to, like you said, we wanted to help monitor the meds. We don't want him to go on all on his own someplace and take new meds. And, if something does go wrong, we want to be there. And so that's kind of what we explained to him. But it is, I think that's episode 3 of really getting into those boundaries and what they look like. And, some of the fear that's associated with those I call them harrowing nights. And, but the one thing that kind of, back to advocacy and how it looks different, but yet it's the same. I thought about people that, their loved ones had cancer, right? And they were in the bathroom all night, throwing up from chemo, you know what I mean? Or they're watching their hair fall out. I've never had that experience, but I'm sure that anybody who advocated for a cancer, person who's fighting that would have those harrowing nights as well, right? Like this, it's tough stuff to be an advocate in those harrowing nights, I guess. And you'd almost give anything to save your family member from it, and yet you can't. So we're just in it, So, and that's really what, We Are Functioning is about, that's why we wanted to share it. Just, full disclosure, it's not all you know, it's not all fun and games, and we've been really in it. You know, we'll get into it a little bit more about, you know, what resources we had and didn't have, right, in the next trilogy, in the next section of advocacy. But you know, would you say anything more about that?
Well, we're gonna leave them hanging on this one because, again, we only talked about the first 24 hours, so we've got two and a half more days to talk about. That's I think we should leave it right there. It's a good place. So.
And, you know, if you like this conversation and you want to, you know, kind of join in it, that we're trying to create a safe space so that families like ours can talk about and what it means to support somebody who's living with schizophrenia. And, you know, so we want you to we want you to subscribe to the channel.
And share.
Yeah. You also want, you know, we want to invite people to come on and have conversations similar to this. We try to keep them constructive, but real, right? And you know, so if you have any family members that you'd like to talk about, or any situations that you're curious about, if we've had that experience, certainly, just let us know. Put a comment or reach out to us and wearefunctioning.com.
Yep, we can keep it anonymous, and we like the stories we received, but we want more. We want more opinions and scenarios and situations that are out there, similar or different to ours.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yep. So we're looking forward to the next time. But in the meantime, this is how we're functioning.
Take care.